Welcome back. This is Chris, my brother in Christ, Stephen.
Welcome back.
Date today is February 15th, 2021, and the title of this video is going to be called 1871 Part 3. 1871 Part 3. All right, so continuing, we learned that the government, which was created for the District of Columbia via the Act of 1871, operates under private international law, also known as Roman civil law or admiralty law or iron law, as we learned from the Bible that Rome is the Iron Kingdom, right? Admiralty or maritime law. And so that's and it's not common law. We're not under common law, which was the law of the Constitutional Republic. Now, private international law is only applicable within the District of Columbia, not in the other states of the Union. The various arms of the corporation are known as departments, such as the Judiciary, Justice, and Treasury. The departments all belong to the corporation known as the United States, all caps. They do not belong to us under the corporate constitution and its various amendments that operate outside the constitutional republic. I refer you to the United States Code, all caps. Note the capitalization indicating the corporation, not the republic. Title 28, 3002. Then we have brackets. All right, I'm going to see if they can see this, Stephen.
Okay.
Right down here, it's going to be in green. I do different color just because I deal with so much information. So, can they see that?
Yes.
All right. Can they see the whole thing? Okay. So they can read that?
Yeah.
All right. So that's what we got. We have the United States Code, right? It says Title 28, 3002, 15, ABC. It is stated unequivocally that the United States, all caps, is a corporation. This corporation is not a separate and distinct entity from the government. It is the government, your government. You serve the United States of America Corporation.
The Act of 1871 also prostituted our country with the new corporations creating illegal federal criminal agencies.
Amen.
And giving it powers our country's founding fathers expressly denied it from having. Thus, the creation of a private banking system, the Federal Reserve, along with the ABC agencies such as the IRS, FBI, CIA, FCC, Department of Education, NASA, etc., are all prohibited by our country's founding fathers.
Amen. Amen. So we see that the corporate empire of the United States, all caps, which operates under Roman civil law, outside of the Constitution, Congress is fully aware of this deception. I'll say that again. Congress is fully aware of this deception. The members of Congress work for the corporation known as the United States, all caps. They are not our civil servants. They do not work for us. How often have we said, I've said it, hey, they are our civil servants. We elected them. They work for us. Guess what? They do not work for us. In fact, we work for them. They serve the corporation. Their job is to make the United States of America Corporation money and profit, the love of money. And that's why you have the military-industrial complex. That is a for-profit organization going across the world, wreaking havoc, supposedly in the name of democracy. For example, one example, most current, a current one, not the most current, but you had the, the Iraq War, where we went in under no lawful pretense, no lawful reason, and we ended up killing, murdering a million of their citizens, men, women, and children, under the military-industrial complex, because you know what? The Iron Kingdom is diverse from all of them, and it is horrible and terrible and ferocious.
I remember they interviewed Madame Albright, and they asked her, said, you know, we killed over 500,000 Iraqi kids. Do you really think that price was worth it? Well, we thought about it, and we felt it was worth it.
Madeleine Albright.
What could be worth killing 500,000 children?
Yeah.
I mean, what is it we got out of there?
They had nothing to do with
Yeah.
9/11 because that was a false flag. Building number 7 came down, demolition. So they're not our civil servants. They are the servants of the corporate government and carry out its bidding, period. All right, the great number of committees and subcommittees that the Congress has created all work together like a multi-headed monster to oversee the various corporate departments. All those are just departments within the corporation. Every one of these departments that operate outside the District of Columbia is in violation of the law. The corporate government of the United States, all caps, has no jurisdiction or authority in any state of the Republic beyond the District of Columbia. But they operate illegally, right? Now they say you are presumed to know the law. They know you don't know the law. And as a sovereign, you are entitled to full disclosure of the facts. As a slave, you are entitled to nothing other than what the corporation decides to give you at a price. Be wary of accepting so-called benefits of the United States, all cap, corporation. Ignorance of the law is no excuse. So that's why they can say, hey, we're going to mass force vaccinations because as a slave, as a servant for the corporation, you have no rights. Your rights are relative, right? The theory of relativity, man. Your rights are relative. You know,
we'll tell you what your rights are.
Yeah, we'll tell you what your rights are. Just go along to get along. So they say. So the United States, all caps, government is basically a corporate instrument of the international bankers. Yes, the international bankers that go around causing all the problems, right? Pitting everybody against each other. World War I, World War II, right? You have Korean War, Vietnam conflict. It goes on and on and on and on. It's a for-profit business. And that's what's really sad. It's this, the Iron Kingdom.
Civil War.
Yeah, yeah, Civil War.
Profit.
Right. And we're going to get into this because it's really interesting. This is from Lisa Giuliani. And then there's some information on 15 points based upon historical evidence. Kind of walks us through this, which I found incredible. So, ignorance of the law. Yeah, the law is no excuse. The United States, all caps, government is basically a corporate instrument of the international bankers. You are owned by the corporation from birth to death. The corporate United States also holds ownership of all your assets, your property, and even your children. Read up on the 14th Amendment. With the Act of 1871 and subsequent legislation such as the perpetually ratified 14th Amendment, our once great nation as of sovereigns has been subverted from a republic to a democracy, right? We were a republic, now we're a democracy. And as in the case of under civil Roman law or iron law, our ignorance of the facts has led to our silence. And our silence has been construed as our consent to become beneficiaries of a debt we did not incur. So we see that the sovereign people have been deceived for hundreds of years into thinking they remain free and independent, when in actuality we continue to be slaves and servants of the corporation. Treason was committed against the people in 1871 by the Congress.
Wow.
By the Congress. This could have been corrected, but the lust and love for money and power prevailed. The restoration of the constitutional republic is the only physical way. Imagine all the brave men and women who were killed in all the wars and conflicts instigated by the controllers. These courageous souls fought for the preservation of ideals they believed to be true. Not for the likes of a corporation, but they are the property of the corporation. So sad, isn't it? How many young people, gives me chills, but have serve thinking they're defending the freedoms of free American sovereign citizens.
You did?
I did, yeah. Praise God, I came back alive. Wasn't missing any limbs and everything, but so many people aren't as lucky. What we need is a revolution in thought. I went, wow, a revolution in thought. So that was pretty interesting. And that was an article by Lisa Giuliani. So, Stephen, do you have anything that you want to add?
Well, I mean, it is quite a
vast subject, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And I know that King James the First gave the first charter of Virginia in 1606, which actually granted America's British forefathers license to settle and colonize America. The charter guaranteed all future kings, queens of England would have sovereign authority over all the citizens and colonized land in America. After America declared independence from Great Britain, the Treaty of Paris, signed on September 3rd, 1783, was signed. That treaty identifies the King of England as the Prince of the U.S.
Really?
Prince George III, by the grace of God, King of Great Britain, France, and Ireland, Defender of the Faith, Duke of Brunswick and Lauenburg, Arch, Treasurer, and Prince Elector of the Holy Roman Empire and of the United States of America. Completely contradicting premise that America won the War of Independence. Article 5 of that treaty gave all British estates, rights, and properties back to Britain.
Wow.
And it's agreed that Congress shall earnestly recommend it to the legislature of the respective states to provide for the restitution of all estates, rights, and properties which had been confiscated belonging to real British subjects, and also of the estates, rights, and properties of persons resident in districts of the possession on His Majesty's arms who have not borne arms against the United States.
So we see this Roman law was actually being brought forth gradually, even with the formation of the colonies.
Yep.
Basically, that's what this article,
Yes.
and that's confirmation right there.
Yep.
Okay, go on. That's interesting.
The respective states to provide for the restitution of all estates, rights, and properties which have been confiscated belonging to real British subjects, and also of the states, rights, and arms of any persons residing in possession on His Majesty's arms who have not borne arms against the United States.
Okay.
And that person of any other description shall have persons of any other description shall have free liberty to go to any part or parts of any of the 13 United States, and therein to remain 12 months unmolested in their endeavors to obtain the restitution of such of their estates, rights, and properties that may have been confiscated. And that Congress shall also earnestly recommend to the several states a reconsideration and revision of all acts or laws regarding the premises, so as to render the said laws or acts perfectly consistent not only with justice and equity, but with that spirit of conciliation, which on the return of the blessing of peace should universally prevail. And that Congress shall also earnestly recommend persons who may now be in possession of the bona fide price where any has been given, which such persons have paid on purchasing any of the said lands, rights, or properties since confiscation. It's agreed that all persons who have any interest in confiscated lands, either by debts, marriage, settlements, or otherwise, shall meet with no lawful impediment in the prosecution of their just rights.
Is this by returning the land to the crown?
Yeah, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if you got it by marriage, if you got it by, you paid money for it, it doesn't matter.
Everything goes back to the crown.
Everything goes back to the crown. It's becoming increasingly apparent to American citizens that government is no longer being conducted in accordance with the U.S. Constitution or within states according to the state constitutions. While people have recognized for more than 150 years that rich and powerful, often corrupt officials often corrupt individual officials or exert undue influence to get legislation passed that favors their interest. Most Americans still cling to the naive belief that such corruption is exceptional, and that most of the institutions of society, the courts, the press, the law enforcement agencies, are still largely comply with the Constitution and the law in important matters. They expect that these corrupting forces are disunited and in competition with one another, so they tend to balance out one another. Mounting evidence makes it clear the situation is far worse than most people think. That during the last several decades, the U.S. Constitution has been effectively overthrown, that it is now observed only as a facade to deceive and placate the masses.
Amen.
What has replaced it is what many call the shadow government. Created with the illegal passing of the Act of 1871, it still, for the most part, operates in secret because its control is not secure. The exposure of this regime and its operations must now become a primary duty of citizens who still believe in the rule of law and in the freedoms in which this country is supposed to represent.
Okay, wow. So yeah, so we see this treason is what's happened, and we see that this is all about the Iron Kingdom, which is run by the dragon, and that's why Stephen's pointing out a really good information. Thank you, Stephen. About that, we're waiting for the Stone Kingdom when Jesus Christ comes, the second coming. We're just trying to hold the line. And coming out of Babylon, because the Roman law is just nothing but a continuation of the Babylonian law. So the U.S. Code, all caps, Title 28, 3002 definitions, right? United States means A, federal corporation, B, an agency, department, commission, board, or other entity of the United States, or C, an instrumentality of the United States. So this is the start of Corp USA, or Corporation United States. Corp USA, the Columbia Organic Act of 1871. You see, this is interesting information by Team Law. Looks like trustee@teamlaw.org. So, perhaps maybe you have a spiritual gift on uncovering law that you could, help people understand this, because a lot of this stuff is very complicated, and I don't claim to be an attorney. But so let's talk about these historical facts from Team Law. The following 15 points are based upon factual historical evidence. So it kind of ties everything to what we're just talking about. Number one, in 1863, Abraham Lincoln instituted martial law. He ordered that the states or people either conscribe troops and provide money in support of the North, or be recognized as an enemy of the nation. This martial law act of Congress is still in effect today. Still in effect today. What it means is that the president has dictatorial authority to do anything that can be done by the government in accord with the Constitution of the United States of America. This is the foundation of the presidential executive orders. Right? And I think Biden signed more executive orders than all the other presidents, last 5 presidents or whatever. Number 2, historical facts. The District of Columbia Organic Act of 1871 created a private corporation, hereinafter Corp US. Corp meaning corporation, US, right? Owned and operated by the actual government for the purpose of carrying out the business needs of the government under martial law. So it's carrying it out under martial law, and martial is referring to martial law. I'm not sure if martial is maritime. I might be wrong on that. This was done under the constitutional authority for Congress to pass any law within the 10-mile square of Washington District of Columbia. So they did that within that 10-mile square, but outside of that, it's illegal. It's unlawful. Number 3, in said act, Corp USA adopted their own constitution, United States Constitution, which was identical to the national constitution, or the Constitution of the United States of America, except that it was missing the national Constitution's 13th Amendment. The national Constitution's 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments are respectively numbered 14, 15, and 16th Amendment in their Constitution. So Satan is always the great counterfeiter, right? And so what do? They make their constitution, this corporation that's in a 10 square mile, they just adopt the Constitution that was the original one, but they just change a few things and they go, see, it's the same thing.
And did you know that the city, the Crown Corporation, in Great London, in District of Columbia, and in Rome, have its own courts? They're not subject to British law. They have their own courts.
They're their own country.
Yes,
Yeah,
their
they're
own
sovereign.
laws, their own flag, their own police. Exactly like Vatican City, State,
Yes.
Washington D.C., Columbia. The Crown Corporation also is separate from the Metropolitan Police, and they drive different cars. Everything's different. They have their complete country inside of a country. They don't even pay taxes.
And that's why they have their different flags, and they have the 3 stars because they recommend that they recognize that they're connected. Those are the 3 stars on each one of those flags because they're separate countries. They're a city within a city, and they're a city country. And it's interesting, isn't the lawyers today under the bar, which is the British
accreditation, resource or
whatever it is, association. All right, number 4, historical facts. The corporation began to generate debts via bonds, etc., which came due in 1912, but they could not pay their debts. So the 7 families that bought up the bonds demanded payment, and Corp US could not pay. The said 7 families, ought to be interesting what the said 7 families are. I'm sure they're the Rockefeller and Rothschilds and others, settled the debt for the payments of all of Corp USA or Corporation USA or the United States Corporation assets, and for all of the assets of the Treasury of the United States of America. All right. And continuing. All right. I love when pages stick together. All right, so that's number 5, historical facts. As in 1913 began, Corp US had no funds to carry out the necessary business needs of the government, so they went to the said 7 families, right, and asked if they could borrow some money. The families said no. Corp US, right, Corp USA had already demonstrated that they would not repay their debts in full. The families had foreseen this situation and had the year before finalized the creation of a private corporation of the name Federal Reserve Bank, right? That was created in 1913. Great book on that would be by, I believe, Edward G. Griffin, The Creature from Jekyll Island. A lot of great information. It was created by these foreign bankers that do not care about Americans. Period. Rockefeller being one of them. All right, so the Federal Reserve Act in 1913. Corp US formed a relationship with the Federal Reserve Bank whereby they could transact their business via note rather than with money. And I went, wait, note rather than money, Stephen. So it's the Federal Reserve notes. These are IOUs. These dollars are a joke.
They are.
Notice that this relationship was made between 2 private corporations. It's all about corporations and did not involve government. This has nothing to do with government. Federal Reserve Bank is just a corporation run by foreign interests. That is where most people err in understanding the Federal Reserve Bank system. Again, it has no government relation at all. The private contracts that set the whole system up even recognize that if anything therein proposed is found illegal and impossible to perform, it is excluded from the agreements and the remaining elements remain in full force and effect. All right, number 6 of historical facts. Almost simultaneously with the last fact, also in 1913, Corp US passes and adopts as if ratified their own 16th Amendment. It must be noted that this amendment has nothing to do with our nation, with our people, or with our national constitution, which already had its own 16th Amendment. The Supreme Court ruled that it did nothing that was not already done other than to make plain and clear the right of the United States or Corp US to tax corporations, we agree, considering that they were created under the authority of Corp US. So if you're a corporation under the United States corporation, they can tax you because you're not a sovereign anymore. All right, number 7. Next, also in 1913. 1913 was a crucial year. Congress, right? Treasonous Congress passed and entered the 17th Amendment as ratified, even though the state had no opportunity to ratify the same. This amendment is not only not ratified, it is not constitutional. The Constitution forbids Congress from even discussing the matter of where senators are elected. Number 8 out of 15 historical facts. In 1914, the freshman class and all senators that successfully ran for re-election in 1913 by popular vote are seated in Corp US capacity only. Number 9. In 1917, Corp US, or the United States Corporation, enters World War I and passes their emergency war powers and trading with the Enemies Act. Number 10. In 1918, President Wilson is reelected by the Electoral College, but their election is required to be confirmed by the constitutionally set Senate, where in the new Corporation US, only senators were allowed to participate in Electoral College vote confirmation. This is all now a corporation, right? So the only authority that could possibly have been used for electoral confirmation was corporate only. Therefore, President Wilson was not confirmed in office for a second term as President of the United States of America and was only seated in the Corporation U.S. presidential capacity. Therefore, the original jurisdiction government seats were vacated because the people didn't seat any original government officers. Everything's being replaced for a corporation. It's a counterfeit. God bless you. We'll pick it up next time. Thank you.